Hi everybody and welcome to OBS Obsessed, the show all about OBS Studio. Today on the program we're going to look at recording and our different options, the hybrid MP4 format, which I find fascinating. We're also going to talk about multi-track audio recording and the Source Record plugin as well. And of course we're going to talk about chapter markers, which is something that's really useful and has had so many different variations of it in recent times. It's been really interesting to watch it come alive. So that's what's coming up on today's show. We are going out live to all the various places, and I do have all the various windows open at the moment. It's a little crazy for me on a Saturday morning, so I hope everything's going to go to plan, if I can spit that out. But let me know in the chat where you happen to be watching. So let's get stuck in, because I do have a lot of things that I want to show you. Let's head over to obsproject.com, which is the official website of this particular software. If you're not familiar with this, it is obsproject.com. This is free and open source software for recording video locally on your computer, live streaming, and changing how you show up on webcam. So we've got that. It's available for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, and you can download it for free from this website. So I guess the place I wanted to start with this particular conversation is with the hybrid MP4 format, because I find this really interesting. And, you know, we can actually look at the, and I'm going to show you a lot of the documentation on obsproject.com today, because I don't think a lot of people know it's there, and it's kind of amazing. So definitely check that out. I'm just going to hit a button in the background just to make sure everything's working with my chat comments, but I think it is. Yep, cool. All right, no worries. Let's get stuck back into this. So, I guess my understanding of the benefit of this hybrid MP4 format is essentially, if your computer crashes, there's a really good chance you may be able to salvage most of that recording. And I'm fortunate in the sense that I haven't had that issue, but I do really appreciate that. But we've got the features here. We've got the video and audio codecs that are supported. We do have chapter markers, which I think is a really useful thing for content creators. So we're going to get stuck into that in a little bit. Creation time and date. Unlike the existing MP4 output, the creation date will be set to the output starting time, allowing users to more easily organize and catalog their files, which is really cool. There's also additional metadata, so that can be added to the file. And hello to Ludwig, who is saying hello, I'm guessing. Thank you for being here. All right, so essentially this format, like, it doesn't sound too exciting, but I promise you it really is. And I love the fact that we can actually embed our chapter markers inside of this format. I love that there's a little bit of extra metadata and the ability to save our files, you know, in the event that we do crash. One thing I will say about the chapter markers, and I'll mention it now just in case I don't mention it later, is that the chapter markers are written as part of the finalization process. So if you do crash and you can retrieve the video recording, you won't necessarily have those there, unfortunately. It may change in the future, but it is what it is right now. So if we head over to my portable version of OBS, I just want to talk to you about where these recording settings are. So we go to the file menu, we can go to settings, and we've got our output options here. So first of all, we've got simple and advanced options. And again, if you really want to get super granular, you can go into the advanced settings. I generally don't play around with these too much, but it's up to you if you want to explore these. But by default, traditionally, what would happen in OBS is we would have this great MKV format, which I'm not going to try and pronounce because my Russian is probably not that great, which is a good format. You can still use it today. It's perfectly fine. The thing is, once you've recorded something in that format, you do need to remux it. And that process in itself is pretty easy. You can go to the file menu and you can go to remix recordings. You can grab one of your recordings, like that one, for example. I don't even know what this project is, but that's fine. We can change the file name if we wanted to, and we can hit remux. And essentially all it's done is converted from MKV to MP4. which is great. That's not a hard thing to do. There are actually some options in the settings too to automatically remux your recordings as well. I think that's under the advanced options. So go to File menu, Settings, and Advanced, and there's this great little option called Automatically Remux to MP4. But in this case, I'm a really big fan of this this hybrid MP4 format. So I'm going to actually use that for my recording format here. You can see we've got some different options for the size and the quality. We can adjust those as well. Also the audio track, and we will come back to this in a little bit. So we've got those there. We can essentially, if we were to add our some sort of video capture device, and I'm going to cheat a little bit because I'm already using my camera in another place. I'll say OBS virtual camera. And I haven't set this up this morning, so this will be interesting to see how it goes. All right, so I haven't turned that button on. Yep, cool. So start virtual camera over here. I can sort of adjust any of my settings. I've got myself there. I'm going to actually drag myself down to everything except that last one, probably. There we go. So I'm in here. My video is in here. Often you would also get audio options with the video capture device. In this case, because it is the virtual camera, I don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and add my audio input capture device. And this is just my Rodecaster, which my microphone is coming through. All I really need to do is select the device from the list, and I'll go with the Pro Stereo option and click OK. And now you'll see that I've actually got my audio here. So I can adjust this if I need to. I could turn this up or turn this down, but I think that's fine for the moment for our purposes. So we've got that there. That's really, really cool. What we can do also, and I have a feeling I'm going to get through this content really quickly today, but that's fine because I know you just want to learn things and move on with your life. But if we go to the audio mixer, and if you don't see this dock, just go to the docks menu and make sure you click on the audio mixer option. You'll see that we have, we click on these two little dots, we can go to advanced audio properties. So from here, we have a bunch of different options. And the one I really want to talk to you about today is the tracks, but we'll come back to that in a second. But essentially, we've got the volume, we can increase that, we can lower that, we can make this mono, we can adjust the stereo balance if it is stereo. A sync offset, so if there is some lag between your video and your audio, you can have a go at changing that. Something about that makes me very nervous, and I've never needed it, but you may need it. The other thing too is we have our audio monitoring options. So we've got monitor off, which means the stream or the recording will hear the audio, but I won't hear it back. We've got monitor only, which means only I will hear it. And we've got monitor and output. So if I click monitor and output, in this case, it doesn't really do a whole lot, but you know, there may be instances where you want to do both. Like if you have a video that you want to play in the middle of your stream, it's often a really good idea if you can hear it in real time, so you know what was just said, so you can pick that discussion item up when you're ready for it. Monitor only is often a good thing. I know some chat services actually give you an audio ping every time there's a new chat comment. I personally find that incredibly annoying, but if you wanted it, you could choose the monitor only option and just ensure that you're hearing it, not the entire audience, because I swear that feels like a kind of water torture, so I wouldn't recommend that one. But just quickly check in with the chat. So Reluctant Creators is saying, morning all from Birmingham in the UK. Great to have your company. All right, so let's... we've spoken about the hybrid MP4 format. What I kind of want to do is I want to create a few other scenes and sources. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to create another one, and I will call this... I'm just going to call this music. We're going to do that. I'm going to do a few things. I'm multitasking so hard for this stream, so I hope it works, and I hope you guys appreciate it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a piece of MIDI software, a MIDI keyboard thing in the background, and turn on the physical keyboard I have to the side of me. Okay. So now I want to actually come in, and I'm going to go and add in a window capture. And I'm going to say Analog Lab 5, because that's what this is called. And I'll pick that from the list as my window. And I do also want to capture the audio. This is technically in beta. I really haven't had any troubles with it. It's worked really quite well for me. I might actually move it over to this screen and I don't know, may not let me. Oh, there we go. We'll make it bigger. That's fine. I don't think that's a problem. Okay, cool. So we've got that there. We click OK. We can hide, capture the cursor or not. In this case, I probably don't want it, so I'll just get rid of it there. So now I've got this going. Again, you won't be able to hear this audio yet, but you should be able to see that audio mixer is going into the orange and into the red a little bit. And again, we could potentially go in and adjust this, and we might do that in a second, but let's just stick with that for the moment. Again, I would probably do things like add in some, you know, a color source in the background. I don't even know what I got in here. That blue color, we'll throw that underneath it. What the hell? That's all good. All right, and let's actually bring in one other thing, and let's actually create a new scene. We'll call this one Da Vinci. You can probably guess why. I'm going to do exactly the same thing again. I'm going to go and insert a window capture. I'll call this one Da Vinci Resolve. I'm going to grab my project, turn my audio on. This one probably would make sense to actually have the cursor there. I'm going to click OK. And again, I'm not sure. I probably need to go to this software to actually play something for you to see this, but let me just play this project.
Nesto recently asked me, is it possible to record voiceover in DaVinci Resolve 20? And it is. It's actually possible
if we needed to, but for my purposes today, I'm just recording things locally for this example. I think this is going to be okay. We can go in and normalize and edit and do different things later on. I will bring up this comment from Reluctant Creators, and again, I feel like we've had this conversation a few times already. So, I mean, if it makes sense, by all means, use this. But Reluctant Creators writes, sync offset I do in hardware like Roland or Rodecaster P2. So it's also correct in other screen capture software, web-based streaming services. Okay, cool. That sounds like a good use for it. All right. So essentially, we've got our scene, which has the microphone in it. We've got the music scene over here, which has the music, and we've got the DaVinci Resolve here. Again, this wow. Okay. Something's very different about my chat today, but that's okay. We'll keep going. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create another scene. I know you just can't get tired of me creating new scenes, and I'm just going to call it Combined. And again, this is probably not the best use case of this, but I'm actually going to bring in some nested scenes together. So I'm going to go in and bring my first scene, which I literally just called Scene, which you probably should give it something of a more meaningful name, but I think that'll be fine for the moment. I'm going to actually bring in another scene, and we'll bring in the music scene this time. I will actually make this scene smaller, put it in a corner. And then I'm going to bring in DaVinci, my DaVinci scene as well. And again, I'm going to make that smaller. Again, this is probably not a particularly useful use case, but I just want to use this as a starting point to demonstrate a few things. In fact, what I might do, let's just put it underneath here. So what I really want to draw your attention to is down here in the audio mixer, we've essentially brought these three scenes together. So you can see I've got the Rodecaster, that's me speaking. I can touch the keyboard and you'll see that will light up as well. And if I go into DaVinci Resolve, I can play some audio and that will be there as well. So just as a side note, and I don't really do this very often, but I'm just going to mention it in case it's of interest to you. There is also, if we sort of right click on the audio mixer, there is a vertical layout, which will give you the up and down faders, which I know Soundproof loves working that way. I'm actually really used to the horizontal ones, but you do you. That's purely your preference there. But what I do want to sort of call out at this point is these different tracks that we're on. So we can have all these things on the same tracks, and that's generally what I kind of recommend for complete beginners. Like just put it on everything. It doesn't matter. Who cares? But what I kind of want to do today, and I think I'm probably going to do this more moving forward, is that I'm going to actually, I'm going to leave them all on track 1 because track 1 would theoretically be the streaming track that I'm using, and also the recording of the entire stream or the entire presentation if I'm doing it locally. But I kind of want to, I want to adjust some of these other ones. So in this case, my Rodecaster, which is essentially my microphone, I want it on this first track, and I'm going to have it on track 2. For my music, I'm going to have this on track 3 and track 1. And for DaVinci Resolve, I'm going to have this on track 1 and track 3. And, you know, that in itself doesn't look very exciting. It hasn't really done anything. But again, if we go back into our settings, first of all, we want to make sure that there is that one stream option. So if we look at the output, we can see that the recording, I'm actually going to select 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So we're going to record to that, which is great. And I click apply. So now, if I wanted to record, and again, the record options are actually just behind my head, so maybe I will dock them over here. We can see them a little bit better. But essentially, and another good thing to check actually before we do that is just where our recordings are going to. So they're actually going to this folder here, which I might even copy just so I can get there a little bit quicker. All right, so what I can do is we can hit start recording. I will do whatever it is I'm doing. I will talk. I will play the keyboard very badly probably, and you will actually have an opportunity to hear this keyboard playing in a little bit. But I'm also going to just duck over to DaVinci Resolve. I'm going to hit play. 2 different parts. And what is interesting about that is you actually get different options. Scrub through this a little bit. I'm not really sure why, but actually I'm on jog. Maybe I need to be on scroll. I can't actually hear the scroll audio at the moment. Which is so weird. Do we want to hear the timeline audio when we do this? But anyway, if I stop recording now, I've got my, I can go to my file menu and it'll say show recordings. And again, I probably didn't need to copy that URL because this will open that folder for me anyway. But I should have my magical recording somewhere in here. And it's not immediately obvious. I mean, it should be visually. It's this one here. Okay, cool. So I'm going to drag this off to a different screen for a second. Let's go over to DaVinci Resolve again. And I've got so much stuff happening today. It's kind of ridiculous. Let's just go and create a new project. And we will say OBS recording. I'm going to drag this and let's work on our edit page today. I'm going to drag this over to the media pool. If I've got the right thing open, which I don't. Let me try that again. Drag this over here. Now, if I bring this down here, you will see that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 tracks. And yet they do all have things on them. So this is the point at which I'm really going to need some feedback in the audience. So I hope somebody's still watching. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to play through this. And I just want you to tell me if you can hear this on the stream, because I may need to make an adjustment. So let me just hit the play button. I will do whatever it is I'm doing. I will talk. I will play the keyboard. Okay, I'm pretty sure you could hear that. Unfortunately, it looks like the my keyboard playing has spiked something awful. But it does look like you should be able to hear this audio. So what I wanted to call out is we've essentially got track 1, which has everything. We've got track 2, which I'm pretty sure is just, I'm going to call this John talking. This is the keyboard one. And this is DaVinci. And audio 1 is basically everything. So if I mute audio 1, go back and play. That's really I probably should have adjusted the... In fact, I'm... Let me just... what's the best way of doing this? There we go. I'm just going to bring that down a little bit, just so it doesn't blow your heads off when I do this. But essentially now we've got... in fact, I'll solo these as we go through. So we'll go solo. I will do whatever it is I'm doing. I will talk. That's just me talking. The keyboard. Then I've got the keyboard. But I'm also then I will go with DaVinci, which will come in much later.
2 different parts. And what is interesting about that is you actually get different options.
All right. I'm very sorry to poor reluctant creators who that audio rather woke him up. So that's unfortunate. Sorry about that. But I guess what I really wanted to articulate here is that once we have audio on different tracks and we're recording those different tracks, is that we can get quite granular about how we use these in the editing software if we do choose to edit. So you can also, and this is something I don't have a lot of use for, so I haven't done it and I probably never will do it. But like you can choose certain tracks to actually... tracks of audio to go to specific streaming sites, and I think Twitch has different arrangements for that versus YouTube and whatnot. I don't know a great deal about that. That's something you probably need to do a bit of research on yourself, but essentially once we've got this, I can delete the combined track and then I can just work with the individual tracks. All right, so all right, so Reluctant Creators is awake and trying to create some thumbnails for some pending video. So that's good. Yes. Anyway, it's the joy of doing things live. And honestly, as much as I love the community, as much as I love the interaction with the chats, it's always safer to record things offline and edit them together. So that's just the conclusion I've come to lately, which feels a little treacherous coming from me, but it is what it is. All right, so the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, or one of the other things that I want to talk to you about, is actually if we can actually work with chapter markers now. So chapter markers will essentially just put a mark in your file if you're using the hybrid MP4 format. If you're not using the hybrid MP4 format, it will actually save this to a text file, which you can use as well. So what I can do is, there are a few different ways of doing this. And I might even start with the Stream Deck one, because I think this is probably what a lot of you out there already have. I'm going to grab my Stream Deck software over here. Make sure you've got the OBS plugin installed. But if you go to the OBS Studio plugin, we have a magical thing called Chapter Marker. And this used to be a lot more complicated than this. So basically we drag that onto an empty spot on our Stream Deck. We can say, we can give it a title, we can give it a name, and we can give it an auto number. So I might just call this chapter. Make this a little bit bigger. And I do like using the color matrix just to give it a solid background. That's just how I like to roll. Let's go with the purple for today. And I might just call this one chapter, and I will click on that auto number because that will be quite useful. So now the way this theoretically works, and again, I have to do a bit of an exception here today to show you this because I've got two versions of OBS running, but essentially when you're recording, just press the button on your Stream Deck. It will note that position in the video file or the text file, depending on the option that you're using. I can't really do this right now because it'll use the version of OBS that is broadcasting this stream and not the second version that I'm actually using to do this. So I'm actually gonna do something a little bit different for today. This is a bit of a cheat, but I'm actually going to go keyboard key. I'm going to do a hotkey. I'm going to say, instead of clicking to observe, I'm actually going to click this drop down thing. And this is something I learned from Saeed. We have all these buttons, but the great thing about this is if you hold down Control, Shift, Alt, And then I can go, not only can I use F keys that I physically don't have on my keyboard, but I can do them in conjunction with that. And you're thinking, oh my God, that looks terrible. And it is, but I'm never going to use this. Let me show you how I'm gonna wrangle this. Let's go back to OBS. Let's actually go into our settings, go File Menu Settings, go to Hotkeys. And let's just look up Chapter Marker. You'll see two have come up here. One because I've got the vertical plugin, so I can do that here as well. But one is add a chapter marker here. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to press the magical button on my Stream Deck, which is the Control-Alt-Shift-16. And now, whenever I press this button on here, and again, I could change how that looks. Again, this is just for my benefit. Just make it look a little bit prettier. And give it a color in the background. There we go. Now, whenever this is recording, I can hit this button and it will do its thing. And again, you don't need to do this version probably. It's just because I use two versions of OBS, so it's a bit of a workaround for me. Hello, Saeed. It's funny how we talk about you and then you mysteriously appear. Quick hello from Germany. And hello to Stefan, who's watching from Sweden. And Ludwig says, thank you very much for expertise. No worries. So now I've got that there. Again, you don't really need to worry about this. If you just use the standard OBS version, you'll be fine 9 times out of 10. But again, it's just that I've got this weird double OBS setup. So you would do that and it would be great. So what we want to do essentially is we want to hit the record button, start recording up here. And I'm going to press my version of this button and say, hello, welcome to Chapter 1. We're going to talk about this. Then we're going to move on to Chapter 2. And then we're going to move over to Chapter 3. And then I'm going to stop recording. I mean, it's up to you, Said. If you want to watch the replay, that's up to you. But I was just saying, you know, how we can actually find those additional F keys in the Stream Deck and use some modifier keys, which is something you've made content about. You showed me, and we both made content out of that in real time, which is cool. But let's go and check out what's happened with this magical thing. If it has worked, I'm not really sure if it has worked, but I guess we'll find out in a second. I have a weird feeling this hasn't worked, but let's learn together in real time. I'm gonna actually just delete all of this right now, and let's bring in our file. So that one was 5.5. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna bring this in. Okay, it has worked. It's interesting, and I think I actually have a different plugin that saves these as a text file. So maybe that advice is actually wrong. But essentially, and I'm not sure how well you can see this, but if I go here, you'll see that we've got our blue mark here. So if I actually start playing from here and say, hello, welcome to Chapter 1. So that's Chapter 1. So a couple of things to note. First of all, it's this chapter marker is on the video, but it's also on all of the audio tracks, which I personally find a little annoying, but I think it's something we kind of need to live with. So what I can do is I can sort of come in, I'm going to hold down, I don't know if this will work, but no, it looks like I can only do one at a time. But essentially, I'm going to click on the ones in the audio, because I don't really need it on the audio, I just need it on the video, and it's going to duplicate this if I do this in both places. So I'm just selecting the little blue chapter markers on the audio tracks, and I am going to delete those. And again, this is the point at which, you know, there are some trade-offs here. So if you are actually using multi-track audio, you may need to do a little bit more work if you want to get rid of those. But again, it's not massively difficult. All I'm doing is clicking and deleting with the delete key. Yeah, it is the delete key on my keyboard. So we've got that there. And now we can actually if we click on this, we can actually double click on this, and we can say, at the moment, they're coming up unnamed, which is fine, I guess. And we'll say segment 1. We can also change the color. Just keep in mind that the color, it will change how it looks, but it will actually give you other options. So if you only wanted to work with certain colors, you could do that. But I'm just going to stick with the blue. So I'm going to do that for segment 1. I'm going to head over to... And where are the other ones? I can't actually see them. Am I going blind? Did I delete them? Oh, there's one. 2. Maybe I should change them to a different color that actually stands out a little bit more. But anyway, let's do that. And we'll say, I don't even remember what I said previously, but we'll go chapter 2 and then chapter 3. I'm sure it's somewhere. There it is. All right. Done. So now, and again, I must admit, a lot of this is pretty new to me. I'm still learning DaVinci Resolve, but if I go to my index, and I go to my markers, you'll see that we've got start, we've got segment 1, we've got chapter 2, chapter 3. So I did actually change that halfway through. The other thing too is that there is a start point, which makes total sense. But it is actually on all these audio ones as well. So I probably just want to get rid of those because again, it's unnecessary duplication for my purposes as a YouTuber. There probably are reasons why other people might want to keep those, but I don't need them. All right. And you'll see as I deleted those, they've sort of disappeared from here as well. So I'm going to double click in here and I'll just make this chapter 1. Okay, and the great thing about this now is if I can actually, and again, this will test my memory because I only played with this earlier in the week, but I think if I go to edit index, I can actually export the edit index. And this is the point at which, you know, we can have a CSV file. I can export that. I'm not entirely sure where in fact, I do know where that is. I will go and find it. And essentially, like, it's just giving us a comma separated file. And that'll give us the time references for that particular thing. I'm hoping it's in here. I guess it'd be in here, wouldn't it? All right, I'm just looking at stuff on another screen so I can locate that file. So I'm guessing it's that one here. All right. Once you've got that file, you've got a lot of information here. Probably a lot more information than we're ever going to need. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete all of this. I have a feeling this is the wrong file because I'm not actually seeing my chapter names in here at all. Let me just try that again. Don't save. All right, so if I go and export this, show markers all. Let's try that. All right, well, I mean, learning in real time is often the worst way of doing this because you can see that I have no idea what I'm doing, but it is what it is. Let's just say, I'm going to call this one segments. All right, and essentially what we can do is we can sort of mine these references, and it does give you some frame references in here as well. You probably do need to get rid of those. There are plenty of formulas online. I probably will write an article about this once I suss it out completely. But essentially, the great thing about that is that you can actually export this information in a way that you can sort of copy and paste into your YouTube description. And that's kind of the benefit of this. One thing I will say is if we do go to the Deliver tab, there are some options to export directly out of DaVinci Resolve into YouTube. And it actually has this magical button that says chapters from markers. Select the blue ones. But this has never worked for me, and I'm not really sure if it's a me thing. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go test 28th of June, which is what it is in my time zone. So I'm going to say, you know, chapters from markers with that, add to the render queue. I'm just going to save it anywhere. It doesn't really matter for my purposes. I'm going to hit render all. It's going to do its thing in the background. It's rendered, and now if you look up here, it actually says it's uploading. So I'm going to have a look at that in a couple of minutes just to see if it's worked or not. But it is frustrating because that seems like a really magical thing that would work beautifully if it worked, but it doesn't appear to be working. So just keep that in mind. All right. So one more thing that I wanted to show you, and I think we're going pretty well for time. Again, there is documentation on the multiple audio track recording over on obsproject.com. I don't think anyone knows this section of the website exists, and there's some really good stuff in here, so I highly recommend you check it out. And it gives you some great overview of how that works. But the other thing I want to talk about too is the source record plugin. So again, in a live stream only situation, you probably just want whatever's on the screen, whatever's being heard, to be sent out to the live stream. But if you are moving to a editing situation, it's often a good idea to have your sources or your scenes recorded individually. And this will give you a lot more options in our editing process. So this is actually source record. It's by Exeltro, who does amazing plugins. One thing I did want to call out, because I didn't realize this was a thing, although I have experienced it, there are some known issues. So the audio crackling, use a different audio and select an audio track. So we probably should keep that in mind as well. But again, because I'm recording multi-track, even if I don't do that, I think we will still have our backups. So I think that'll work pretty well. So we download and install this one. I'm pretty sure I've already got this ready to go, but you've got your Windows installer, you've got the zip file for Windows and Linux and Mac OS. Once you've downloaded and installed this, it actually comes up as its own filter. So let's go back to OBS. And what I want to kind of do is I want to give myself some options in the editing suite. So I'm going to right click on my first scene, which is the me and the talking. Me on camera and me on audio. And if we right click and go to filters, we've got our effect filters. If I go and add a new effect filter, we have this one called source record. And I will say John only. And we can say when we want this to kick in. So we can do this when we're streaming, when we're recording, when we're streaming or recording, or when we're using the virtual camera. There is also an always option. I shudder to think what that would do to your computer if you had it on, but it exists. So, I mean, play with it at your own risk, I suppose. You know, if you only have OBS open for the duration of the thing you're doing, maybe that would work. But in this case, I'm going to say recording. And in fact, I'm going to go recording. That's fine. All right. So it wants to know where to save it from, and it wants to go to that folder individually. I'm actually going to create another folder in here, and I'll just call this ISO. Just for my isolated recordings. And I can change. In fact, I will go John _ John in this file of name formatting. What we can do, and again, I'm going to say different audio track 2, because that will just be this audio. So I've got that one there. And now let's go to and do the same sort of thing for the music scene. We'll go to the filters. We'll add the source record filter. And I'll call this one music. And again, I will go recording. And I'll just put that in the ISO folder. And I might even do _music as part of that file name, just so I know what it is. Different audio. We should, so not 1, not 2. So it's interesting. We can select an audio track or an audio source. So in this case, I'm just going with a track, which I believe is track 3. And again, even if this isn't completely right, you know, it's something to think about. And Said does have a great point, so we'll get to that in a second. But again, I'm going to do this one more time. This won't work for everybody. This won't work for every computer. Think about how many you're doing. Essentially, I'm just recording 3 different scenes here. I don't think that's going to be a problem for my computer, but frankly, my computer is pretty spec'd up. DaVinci, and again, I just want to change my audio, and I probably scrolled past it. Different audio, and I think that's track 4. Okay. Oh. And I've thrown my mouse off the table. Joyful. All right, so let's check this out. Let's just have a go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my combined scene. Hopefully I'm actually going to turn down the volume of my keyboard here because I think it's going to be a problem if I don't do this. I'll just go -6 dB, I think. Yeah, that's probably a safer option. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start recording. And hopefully all these other things will also record. So I'm going to go... I hit the start streaming. Again, I'm not streaming, so that's not going to work. Let's try start recording. Okay, so we're recording right now. You can see that I'm on camera. If I press the keyboard, you can see that jumps up as well. Let's duck over to DaVinci, and I'm going to hit play, and I'm going to press my version of this button and say, hello, welcome to chapter 1. And I'll go, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll move on to chapter 2. And I'll turn that off because I realize you guys can hear that now. All right, so it's really important. This is really, really important. I don't want to underplay this. Said is totally right here. There is a maximum of how many sources you can record at the same time, depending on the encoder. I forgot the numbers, but I think it's somewhere in the documentation. Yeah, so just keep that in mind. And I'm not doing a whole bunch of things, but occasionally I will want to do 2 or 3 things together. And especially, like, if you think back to the video and live streaming show, if you've been around for that long, I'd bring myself in as my scene. I'd bring Sam in as his own scene, and I would record both of those individually as well as the main program feed. So that sort of gave us some options. I'm going to go back to DaVinci Resolve. This really isn't... I probably should start with a new project each time, but I don't think we've got time for that today. Let's just keep going. So I'm going to go find my presentation files. So the most recent one is this one. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. I'm going to drag this. In fact, what I'm going to do before I do that, I'm going to get rid of all of this stuff because it's going to, maybe not the projects, but the timeline. I'm going to get rid of those. Okay. Let's drag this up here. I'm going to go in and grab my ISOs, and something's gone wrong because I've only got 2 of the 3. So I'm curious if I go back to OBS, and the DaVinci one is the one that I'm missing. So if I go to the filters, recording, different audio, track 4. It looks okay. Oh, actually, no, I just didn't put it in the right folder. That's what it's, yeah, okay. So I put everything else in the ISO folder. In fact, I'll do this again just to be on the safe side if I try this again. But essentially, it has recorded. It's just not the right folder that I'm expecting it to be. So I'm just going to move it here so I know where it is for future reference. But now, if we go back to DaVinci, if I can find that particular window, because I've got so many things open, it's kind of ridiculous. I can drag all 3 of these over. And this is the point at which, if you were a little bit more clever than I am, you could probably do a lot of stuff here. So I'm going to drag this on. This is just, this is everything. Actually, it's not everything. It's, oh, okay. No, it is everything. Okay. So I've got that there. I've also got the music. And I've also got DaVinci Resolve. And you probably do need to just check these things line up in terms of the audio. But once you've got them, you're pretty much good to go. Oh, I'm in the cut page. That's why everything looks different. Okay, if I'm in the edit page, all right. So we've got this. So it could be one of those things that, in fact, what I might do, I'll put this one on top for the moment, perhaps. Move up. And I've soloed things that I've forgotten I've soloed, so we'll turn those off. Now you can see that I'm on camera if I press. So interestingly, the keyboard, you can see that. Yeah. So, I mean, we've got a lot to work with here. And to be honest, it's probably more concentration power than I have with me at the moment. But the idea essentially is that we could, we could talk about actually using the keyboard, for example. I could actually do some cuts in here. And what I could do, and again, this might be unusual, but essentially what I might do for this one here, and again, I probably need to make sure I'm only selecting one at a time. I'd probably just make that, turn the opacity down of that one and the opacity down on this one. And we could go from here. If I press on the keyboard, you can see that for the duration of that clip. So you can do a lot of stuff. And I guess in some ways, I don't want to get too bogged down in the actual editing. I just wanted you to know that you can actually grab those things individually and use them as such. So the great thing is the audio is working now that I've actually specified a specific track for it, and it doesn't seem to be crackling. So that's really, really awesome. But let's check in with the chat because there's a lot happening here. Said's going to ask me a technical question, and I'm not going to have the answer, but let's just look at it together. So Said writes, I started recording in 25 frames per second instead of 30 just to save some resources and space. Looks the same to me, not recording any games or anything. Any thoughts? I'm sure it's probably fine. 30 frames per second is just the default that I've always sort of fallen into, except if I do record directly into the Sony ZV-E10, which I haven't done in probably over a year, it did record 60 frames per second. But again, I don't even think that's a problem because 60 to 30, the maths pretty well. So yeah, I'm sure that's fine. I mean, again, don't leave any of this to the last minute. If you are setting up an interview, if you're recording with somebody, make sure you test it extensively. Make sure it does actually work. And do a test recording and check it and then start the interview. But I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with 25 frames per second. I know lots of people like to work that way. Sayed also writes, always record audio on 3 tracks. My mic, audio from Zoom, 3 is music and stuff. So yeah, again, like what this actually looks like will depend very much on your setup and what you're hoping to do. But the great thing about having those extra tracks is that you can do some much more granular stuff. And I say all of this with the realization that a lot of people out there do live because they don't like editing videos. I'm almost the opposite. I do live so I have something to edit because I actually really enjoy editing and playing around with these different things. I guess another thing that I haven't mentioned today because we've done entire shows on it previously, but another thing that I really enjoy having sometimes is let's just go back to screen share, is that I also have the vertical setup. So the Atom vertical plugin gives us a vertical canvas that we can work with again, and that's another thing that you can potentially have another version of. So again, and I might even just do a real quick screenshot of what's actually happening in my live version of OBS, just so I can show you this. So again, you've got the horizontal version down the bottom, but I like to do a version that's just me in vertical. Usually I like to leave enough space at the top that if I crop a horizontal video on top of that, it should fit. again, I haven't really measured that this morning, but the great thing about that is the minute I start going live or recording, I've got a button in the ATEM plugin that says record this as well. So in that sense, you go to the vertical settings. It's literally under recording, start and stop recording when main OBS starts and stops recording. And that's just a great resource to have. And again, if you can think about the output that you want to produce in whether it's YouTube Shorts or Reels or TikTok or whatever, and sort of think about how you can reuse and resize those things, you know, it can be really, really powerful. All right, Reluctant Creators writes, I use 25 frames per second in 4K, save the crop on the Sony cameras. If you do 30, this side of the pond. I'm not sure I understood any of that, but I'm sure it's really useful information. Thank you. All right, so I think we've covered everything that I wanted to cover today. So hybrid MP4 format, it's a great idea. I mean, I've never had, it's clearly labeled beta everywhere, but I've never had any problems with it. It's always worked really well for me. That said, you're quite welcome to play with other things as well, but even the chapter markers. The other thing about the chapter markers is if you do use the native Stream Deck option, so if we go back here and you're using this to create your chapter markers, you can actually add this as a multi-action. And again, going back to the video and live streaming show, if any of you remember that, with Sam, I actually had a lot of multi-actions that would do things like send me off to a different scene to play a promo for a podcast. And then once that happened, it would automatically insert a chapter marker in there somewhere. And then I would come back to the main scene of us talking together. So you can do that with the multi-action as well. So if I right click on this and go move to multi-action, you know, it could be something like I want to change to a different scene. You know, I put that in there and I go to whatever. None of these will be particularly useful for me today, but let's just pick one at random as an example. The only thing with the multi-action, and again, this is something that I think I've really learned from Saeed. Okay, thank you. All right, so the frames per second, in that sense, is very much a TV relationship. Okay, gotcha. Cool. So the only thing that I do feel the need to call out, and again, Saeed made me aware of this, is that we have these timing options, so you can customize the delays. I like to turn these, unless I have a real reason for making them long, I like to turn them down as much as is humanly possible, and just say go. Because other times you do get some weird delays. But again, experiment with that and see how you go. But yes, okay, that makes total sense. And again, I'm not somebody that actually does anything for TV, shockingly enough. I'm an internet creator. That is another thing I probably should mention too, is if we go back to DaVinci Resolve, so if we go to our file, in fact, the DaVinci Resolve menu, I think it might be different on Mac, but we go to Preferences. Under User, we have Editing, and it says Start Timecode. So again, for TV, this usually isn't 0000. It's actually 1 or 10. So again, make sure you adjust this, because again, that potentially will throw out the timecode references. I am kind of curious. I'm just going to go into the back end of my YouTube and see if those time references came across. I kind of doubt they have, but if they have, I will show you. And if not, we will just acknowledge the fact that may not work the way that people hope it would work in terms of uploading from DaVinci Resolve. Yeah, unfortunately, this doesn't seem to work. And I don't know, maybe it's just a me thing, but this is the video I uploaded from DaVinci Resolve, and it's in there and it's fine, but it hasn't brought in those timecode references at all, the chapter markers, which is very disappointing because I'd love that to work, but apparently it doesn't. So it is what it is. But anyway, that's just something to be aware of if you are playing with DaVinci Resolve. Again, I've got so many windows open, so many windows. Ooh, okay. This is exciting. So Saeed writes, I recorded audio in 32-bit float in OBS. Heard it gives you more options for editing and corrections afterwards, doubled the file size of the recordings. Yes. And I think, I'm not sure of the mechanism, but essentially it gives you a fail-safe option that's recorded at a lower volume. So you're much less likely to distort. So it doesn't surprise me actually that it literally doubles the file size. But I would be curious actually hearing more about how that works, because a lot of modern USB microphones do give you that option. And the great thing about it is if you're talking to someone who's not used to using a microphone and they scream into it, you can potentially salvage that audio in a way that you couldn't previously. So that in itself isn't a bad feature, but again, you probably need to be a little bit mindful about how you use it. But that's really interesting. So say let's have it. Tell me more about that. I'm really curious as to where that lives. That's really interesting. That's a whole other show though. Anyway, thank you so much everyone for being here today. It's great to have your company, and thank you to anybody who might be watching the recording later on. I hope this has been useful for you. Again, I don't want to overwhelm you with all the options, but I just want you to be aware of what they are. So even if you don't remember how any of this stuff works, later on you can at least know that it exists and search out information on how to implement it if you do need to implement it. So definitely keep that in mind. I'll be back with this particular show in a couple of weeks' time. I'm alternating my shows in 2025. So next week we'll be doing Learn Live Streaming Live. I don't know what topic I'll be covering just yet, so if you've got anything you're interested in, let me know in the chat. But otherwise, have a great week, have a great weekend when you get there, and I will talk to you again very, very soon.